audio quality of this is going to be crap because I'm driving, and so you're going to have the sounds of my car and everything, but I'm having some thoughts. I just wanted to document them down before I lost them. So I think that one of the things that gets lost in some of the things that are said is that it's a common misconception that I reject the divinity of Jesus, and that's not true. Obviously, I'm a believer in non-dualism, right? So I think that all human beings are divine. So just like we're all divine, I think Jesus was divine too. I think my conception of what it is that makes a human being would flow out of this. It's really based around Genesis and Genesis 2:7, right? What it is that makes a human being is that we are the breath of God, the Spirit of God, and a body of dust, right? Body of earth. So one half Mother Earth, one half Spirit of God, I guess you could say. Although I don't think that's necessarily an accurate way to say it either. I think that's the best that I've got language for at the time. So from that perspective, and keep in mind with that I don't think God is substantive. So what I mean when I say that is I don't think that God has substance. I don't think that you can say, in a practical example, I don't think you can say that somebody has like a teaspoon of God in them, and other people have a cup of God, and other people have, so on and so forth. I don't think God is substantive. There's no substance to that. So I don't think that you can say you're either divine or you're not divine. I don't think that we can separate that out into this person is more divine than someone else. You're either divine or not. God, there is no substance to God in that regard, right? So from that perspective, I don't think it makes any sense to say that in his makeup, Jesus is more divine or divine in a unique way to any other human being. That doesn't make any sense from that perspective. I think you're either divine or not, right? So I don't reject Jesus' divinity, but I also do, what I do reject is that Jesus is divine in a way that no other human being is divine. Now, what I think where I would be more willing to accept the uniqueness of Jesus is, I think that Jesus lives more in tune with his spirit than his flesh, right? So in a way, I think a good way of conceptualizing this is maybe think of God as like a source, right? The source of life, the ground of being. And then imagine that source, right? So to use biblical language, let's call it living water. That living water flows through pipes, right, in our society. So try to envision a source, which is God, and then it flows to the individual human beings through, let's just call them pipes for now, just for the sake of the analogy. I think that just like a pipe in the real world, pipes get clogged up with junk, right, with crap, and then the water doesn't flow. So in that way, I think that Jesus's pipe, let's say, wasn't clogged up with junk. There was no crap, there was no flesh flowing through there. He lived with his flow of living water uninhibited. Whereas I think general humanity doesn't do that. Now, I'm less fond of using exclusive language, which just means that I hesitate to say that Jesus is the only person in the history of the universe that's walked the face of the earth who has walked the earth without any sort of inhibition to the flow of living water through his being. I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea. I'm just much more uncomfortable using those sweeping judgments, right? There's been a lot of people for a lot of different walks of life. There's been super enlightened people. So, was the Buddha one of those people? Maybe. I don't know. If you listen to Ram Dass talk about Maharaji, his guru, you're going to hear him say a lot of things that would kind of sync up with the idea that perhaps this Maharaji guy was walking that same path. I don't know. I never met the guy. I can't say. I'm just a little more hesitant to use that exclusivist language. But I'm open to it. I don't necessarily reject it. I definitely do think, and that's why I follow Jesus, and I would still consider myself a Christian, is that I think that without worrying about whether he was the only one, I think Jesus definitely fit that bill, right? So, to me, he is unique in that way compared to at least the average human being. So yeah, I don't reject Jesus's divinity at all. Obviously, I don't reject the divinity of any of us. I think all human beings are divine. I think that that's inherent to what makes us a human being. Like, if we define what it means to be a human being, what makes us a human being is, outlined in that Genesis 2:7, in my opinion. It's the breath of God with the body of dust. If you just have the body of dust, you don't have a human being. You just have a body. If you just have the breath of God, you don't have a human being. You have God. You have, I would call it consciousness, but you just have God. But what makes us fundamentally a human is that union, right? That hypostatic union of the Spirit of God with the body of flesh, the body of dust. So yeah, I think that gets lost sometimes in the language that I use, and the language that, I think there's some misconceptions about the way that people understand the things that I say.